The week before Batman Arkham Origins was released, I was at Best Buy getting my phone upgraded, and I started talking with one of the girls on the floor, and we started talking about the Batman game because we were so excited because it was coming out soon, and she asked me, "So, which console are you getting it on?" And I said, "Oh, I'm getting it on the Wii U," and her expression went like this. Huh. And then, when the game was released, I went out to buy it day one so I could get the Deathstroke DLC, and also because I wanted it. When I get there, they have a display in the front of the store with all the copies of Batman Arkham Origins. They have PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 copies. No Wii U or 3DS copies. I had to ask one of the store people to go and get a copy of the Wii U game for me. But you know what? Joke's on them, because the Wii U games are still just $50. PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 are $60 each. So suck on that! Now I have $10 extra to buy a crappy Nintendo 64 game to review for my show. Wait. Arkham Origins takes place early in Batman's career. He's been Batman for 2 years, is generally considered to be an urban legend, and has no allies in the police department, which is still ludicrously corrupt, just like the rest of the city. On Christmas Eve, Black Mask hires 8 assassins to kill Batman for a $50 million reward, so Batman heads out to dismantle Black Mask's criminal empire once and for all while contending with the 8 assassins. That's how the story starts, anyway. Arkham Origins kind of leapfrogs between stories and doesn't have the focus that the other 2 games had. Arkham Asylum had one singular goal: stop the Joker's nefarious plans. Arkham City, stop Protocol 10 and find an antidote for the Joker's poison. Arkham Origins starts with you hunting down Black Mask, then you encounter the Joker and have to stop his evil plan, then you go after Bane for a while because he's the only assassin who has a major part in the story, and then the Joker breaks out of jail and you have to stop him again. That's not to say the story is bad, it's just unfocused and not as compelling as the more streamlined plots of the other 2 games. If you're one of the fans who was hoping for a story that focused on a villain other than the Joker because he had the other 2 games basically all to himself, you're going to be disappointed because he pretty much ends up being the focus of the entire game. The story focuses on 4 things. It focuses on Alfred coming to grips with Bruce's decision to become Batman. It focuses on Batman learning that he can't work alone if he wants to be successful. It focuses on Batman gaining the trust of Gordon and the Gotham Police Department, and it focuses on Batman's first encounter with the Joker. The thing that I really like about the game's story is that it delves into, more than other Batman stories I've seen, the Joker's obsession with Batman. The Joker starts out as a nutball who wants to blow up the city because, hell, why not? But then he runs into Batman and he discovers someone who can play on his level. Instead of just being a mad bomber or some random psychopath, he fixates on Batman as his one worthy opponent, not to mention the only person in Gotham who isn't a total crapsack of a human being. Pretty much every scene with the Joker is fantastic, not only because of Troy Baker's wonderful voice acting, but also because of the writing. There's been more than one scene of the game that I later went to YouTube so that I could watch it again. Another thing that I like about the story is that it really emphasizes what a shithole Gotham is without Batman. There's a, quite frankly, ludicrous number of thugs on the street, and the cops are so corrupt that you can see them beating up homeless people for laughs, running protection for many of the random crimes that you stop, and SWAT causes a prison break that causes other cops to get killed because they think it'll discredit Gordon and get a more corrupt officer in the job of commissioner. The gameplay is pretty much the same as the other Arkham games, which is to say, really good. It feels like Arkham Origins is trying to correct a few of the mistakes that the other Arkham games have made. To try and force you to rely less on your detective vision, there are a lot more enemies and objects that jam it, but the big thing that Origins tries to bring to the table that the other games didn't have is boss fights. I think we can all agree that the other Arkham games, as great as they are, don't have much in the way of boss battles. The boss fights in Arkham Asylum pretty much boil down to fighting a bunch of goons or sidestepping an enemy when they charge. Arkham City's bosses mostly boil down to throw a ton of gadgets at it. Origins, especially with Deathstroke, Bane, and Firefly, feels like it's trying to incorporate real boss battles into the game, with mixed success, but it's still a cool improvement to the other games. Another welcome addition is the new fast travel option where you can call in the Batplane to zip between parts of the city instantly, because, trust me, the Pioneer Bridge will be the bane of your existence after you cross it 2 or 3 times. I wasn't too broken up about it when Firefly blew up the damn thing. The game's story is a pretty decent length, and the game has plenty of side content, too. The game has side quests in the form of Most Wanted missions where you undertake missions to take down a villain. It's a neat feature, but honestly, a lot of the Most Wanted missions are very short and easy to complete. The game has crimes in progress where, at completely random times, you'll be pointed in the direction of a group of thugs that you can beat up for XPs, though apart from a few achievements and the XP, there's not a reward for doing them. The game also has a Dark Knight system where, playing the general game, you can do little navigation, combat, stealth, and detective challenges, like glide over the bridge without touching the ground or get a ×50 combo and 3 variations in a fight. Once you finish the game, there are also investigations where you visit crime scenes, collect evidence, and then go arrest, that is, beat up, the culprit. I wish the game didn't put little glowing arrows over everything that you need to scan in the detective sections, because it makes the investigations really easy. The investigations are more a cool addition than any kind of real innovation. There's plenty of content, especially with the new Game Plus mode and I Am the Night mode, which means you have to play through the story 3 times if you want to see everything. Though I have no idea what I Am the Night mode does since I haven't gotten that far yet. There's also kind of a clever twist on the Riddler trophies from the other 2 games where you're trying to steal data packs of extortion data from a mystery hacker, who we all know is the Riddler. The Wii U version doesn't have multiplayer, not that I give a shit about multiplayer anyway, so I can't comment on that aspect of the game. Just wait for Angry Joe's review, he'll talk about the multiplayer for 10 minutes straight. Outside of the assassins, the only new villain in the game is Anarchy, and let me tell you, I love Anarchy in this game. Anarchy is an anarchist, and he's got a channel that you can listen to on the cryptographic sequencer, and you can find anarchy tags throughout the city, which basically act as intel to tell you about Gotham City. His dialogue is written so well. It sounds like something you'd hear from a revolutionary leader or something, and it's honestly scary how much sense his lectures make. One of these days I'm going to turn on the cryptographic sequencer and just listen until the game runs out of stuff for him to say. Not to mention the intel you get for scanning his tags give you a lot of insight into just how screwed up Gotham City is. The game doesn't tell you where the anarchy tags are, which is good because it forces you to actually explore, but it's also a pain that you have no idea where you need to go to get them to get 100% completion. However, as good as Arkham Origins is, I don't think it's as good as Arkham City. It's probably the weakest entry in the series so far, and not just because of this scattershot story. I want to clarify something before I proceed here. I consider Arkham Asylum and Arkham City to be 2 of the best games that I've ever played. I don't have a single complaint against either one of them, aside from nitpicks with Arkham City and the DLC in Arkham City. I just want to emphasize this because Arkham Origins is the 3rd installment of a series that has, in my eyes, cranked out 2 nearly flawless games, so when Arkham Origins has problems, I can't help but bitch about them. Make no mistake, Arkham Origins is a great game, but I hold this series to a high standard, and I can't help but bitch about the handful of problems the game has. Batman, I hurt you because I love you. The first problem I'm going to bring up involves the big twist that takes place midway through the game. So let's just say that a certain character you're led to believe is going to be an important part of the plot just vanishes halfway through the story and is never heard from again outside of his most wanted mission. And this isn't even a problem with the story, this is just a weird quirk about the game's marketing. Someone on the game's dev team must really like Deathstroke. He's the most prominently marketed character of the game, and his character profile says that he might just be the most dangerous enemy Batman will ever face. You fight him once near the start of the game, and you never see him again, except for a little joke at the end of the game and a post-credit scene devoted to him. The guy has nothing to do with the story! I read on Wikipedia that the reason Deathstroke is such a hyped-up part of the game is because Warner Brothers Games is making a game about the Suicide Squad and Deathstroke is going to be in it. So there you go. Deathstroke hijacked this game because they want a head start on marketing a different game. I can't help but feel a little insulted by that. Pretty much every gadget in the game is a gadget from Arkham City. The only Arkham City gadgets that don't make an appearance are the remote electrical charge, though its powers have pretty much been distributed between the shot gloves and concussion detonator, and the line launcher, which you have Deathstroke's remote claw for. There are 3 new gadgets in the game. The remote claw, which is way overpowered once you upgrade it all the way. The shot gloves, which is basically the BAT mode from Arkham City Armored Edition, and it makes combat significantly easier because it lets you punch through enemies that block. And the concussion detonator, which is basically a more powerful but less useful version of the smoke bomb. The remote claw, when fully upgraded, basically lets you shoot an enemy and immediately take him down in a predator encounter. It's so broken! The beautiful thing about the other gadgets in the Arkham games is that each gadget has a ton of uses if you get a little creative. The concussion detonator, you throw it and it stuns nearby enemies. That's it. In other words, it does what the smoke bomb does, except the smoke bomb has tactical uses that concussion detonator does not. And I can appreciate a few callbacks to the previous games, but Origin's references to Arkham City just get distracting. They have the Joker basically repeat his "it's not even breakfast" line from the end of Arkham City, and the Joker sings a love song over the credits. Because subtlety is for shit. Pretty much every group of enemies you fight, even before you get to the New Game Plus mode, is absolutely full of special enemies. Goons with knives, goons with guns, the new martial artist enemies, and goons with armor. I can appreciate them trying to make the combat more difficult, but these groups of enemies lead to a big problem. Picture this. You dive down into a group of about 12 enemies. 3 of them have armor, so you can't attack them unless you stun them first. 2 of them have shields, so you can't attack them unless you stun them first, and if you don't use the disarm and destroy technique, someone else will pick up the shield and start using it. 4 of them have knives, so that you have to do special counters against them, and 1 or 2 of them have guns, so, again, you have to use the disarm and destroy technique, or you're up shit creek without a paddle. It just becomes a massive pain in the ass, because you have to keep stopping in the middle of a fight to stun an enemy to attack them, and while you're attacking them, somebody else attacks you, and then you have to stun that enemy again before you can attack them some more. There are so damn many enemies with armor or shields, it just makes the combat needlessly tedious. And the killer is, I'm pretty sure that the game is designed like this on purpose, to try and force you into using the shock gloves, or to try and prevent the shock gloves from being completely broken. The game ranks you whenever you get out of a fight, and it rates the difficulty of the fight when it does this. And because of all the damn armored enemies, shields, and firearms, it's about impossible to find a crime in progress that is below extreme difficulty. Again, before you get to the New Game Plus mode, which is meant to be significantly harder. Considering that there's pretty much no reward for completing crimes in progress, and I mean no reward at all, I'm seriously considering just ignoring the crimes in progress on the New Game Plus mode. I'll save myself the headaches. The gadgets also create a pretty big plot hole as far as continuity with the series goes. 1. The shock gloves. They add 0 bulk to the Batsuit, they make combat immensely easier, and Batman uses them to resuscitate someone to stop them from dying. Give me one reason Batman would not keep those. And 2, you have the grapnel boost, or the game calls it the grapnel accelerator, in Arkham Origins. In Arkham City, which takes place several years after Origins, it's explicitly stated the grapnel boost is still in the prototype phase. So the obvious question is, how does Batman have a fully functional version of a gadget that's only a prototype several years later? And the obvious answer is, exploration would be a pain in the ass without it. Do you want to have fun or not? But the biggest problem with the game is that it's just not as polished as the other Arkham games. I've run into several bugs and a couple of features that the game flat out told me I had access to that aren't there. When you complete the story mode for the first time, you unlock the New Game Plus mode, where you already have access to all of the gadgets and upgrades that you got in the regular story mode. Or so I thought. I started up the New Game Plus mode and I have all of the upgrades that I purchased in the single player mode, but I don't have any of the gadgets except for what you originally start the game off with. The remote claw, the glue grenade, the shock gloves. Apparently I need to re-unlock them by playing the story, even though the game explicitly says otherwise. And another thing, when I beat the game, I unlocked a new Batsuit called Batman Noel. I can use alternate Batsuits in the New Game Plus mode, but only if I go back to the Batcave to switch suits, so I have to stop whatever I'm doing for a detour whenever I want to switch. And even if you switch to a suit, if you stop playing the New Game Plus mode and then load the game up later, it puts you back in the default costume! So I have to track back to the Batcave, switch back to the suit that I want, and then get back to what I was doing every time! I wouldn't mind so much if the game was designed this way on purpose, but it's not! The game flat out tells you one thing, and then does something else! But on to the bugs. There have been 2 occasions that I noticed where an enemy started running into a wall and he never stopped, like they're channeling the AI in Daikatana, which proved helpful since this happened during a Predator room, so I just saved that guy for last. One of the early Dark Knight Predator challenges tasks you with finishing a Predator encounter without being seen, and I had to do it about 6 times before the game registered the challenge as being complete. And I know that I did it 6 times because when the game ranks you after each Predator encounter, the game makes a point of giving you a bonus for being unseen. The game acknowledges that I did what is needed to complete the challenge, but it doesn't give me credit for completing the challenge. There are several buildings in Gotham City where, for no discernible reason, you're just not allowed to use your grappling hook on a building. You'll be exploring the city or need to get to the top of a building for an objective, and the prompt to fire the grapnel just won't appear. This has led to 2 occasions where I was trying to get to the top of a building to get an objective. The game just wouldn't let me grapple up to the top of that building, and while wandering around trying to get the damn prop to appear, I set off a predator encounter and have to take down a group of enemies before I can get back to what I was doing. What's really weird, though, is that every time you complete an in-game achievement, a Dark Knight challenge, or a side mission, the game has to pretty much stop and spend a few seconds loading before loading up again. And this has led to the game crashing on me twice. One time, the game opened a new case file at the exact same time that a crime in progress started, and the game just blew up. It crashed. Another time, I set a navigation point, unpaused the game, paused again to trigger a fast travel, and since the game tried to trigger a fast travel and notify me about the nav point at the same time, the game hung up again. While I was capturing footage for this video, the game started loading a combat challenge map, and it never stopped loading it. And a friend of mine on DeviantArt said he had to start his game over because Deadshot fell through a staircase and never came back again, so he couldn't complete that side quest or leave the room. And you've probably heard that on the PC version, one of the Riddler's towers is physically impossible to access, which means you can't complete his side quest. And even though I'll give the game credit for trying to introduce boss fights that are actually boss fights into the game, the Bane boss fights pissed me off. Bane enters a Venom mode and he charges at you, and if you don't sidestep him, he turns and then charges you again, and you have about less than a second to dodge roll out of the way or else he hits you again. And then he turns and he hits you again, and then he turns and he hits you again. And it's almost impossible to dodge roll out of the way if he hits you once, so you lose a crap ton of your health and there's nothing you can do about it. But pretty much all of my problems that I've listed are just nitpicks and things that can be easily patched. A lot of game reviewers have been complaining that Arkham Origins is just a clone of Arkham City with nothing but minor changes, and it is. Same gadgets, same general side quests, and a few additions that don't fundamentally change the game's mechanics. Arkham Origins is basically the same game as Arkham City, just with a bigger map and a new story and a few minor new features. But here's the thing, Arkham Origins may be a direct clone of Arkham City, but Arkham City was amazing! I don't mind playing a clone of Arkham City, and Origins adds enough new things to the game that it does feel unique enough from Arkham City to be worth purchasing rather than just playing City again. In spite of the bugs and in spite of the pain-in-the-ass new arrangements of enemies, I've had an absolute blast playing Arkham Origins. It's a great game, just one that's in need of serious patching. If you haven't bought the game yet, I'd absolutely recommend running out and getting it, but if you haven't played any of the Arkham games yet, I'd recommend the other games over it. Arkham Origins is good, just not quite as good as it could be.
Nice of you to drop in. And just in time.